The atmosphere inside the Harrington Enterprises conference room was so tense that it could make one sit up straight, exchanging scrutinizing glances and whispering predictions. An important meeting was about to begin, a meeting that could determine the future of the company. But no one could have anticipated what was about to happen. When Elena Harrington entered, she was not alone. The sound of her high heels echoed on the marble floor, exuding a calm confidence that even the most arrogant men in the room shrank back from. But what left the executive stunned was not her presence. It was the man walking beside her. Daniel is not wearing a tailored suit. He is not holding a leather briefcase or adjusting a Rolex watch. He is a janitor. The dark blue uniform and the cleaning rag still in his hand are clear evidence. The room fell into silence. The executives exchanged bewildered glances, as if they could not believe what they were seeing. Lawrence Whitman, the chief financial officer, cleared his throat, trying to smile politely. "Miss Harrington, Elena raised her hand, stopping him before he could embarrass himself further. "I invited him here." Daniel looked down, clearly uncomfortable. His shoulders were tense, and his gaze avoided everyone around him, as if he had been thrown into a world not meant for him. And yet, he was still here. The executives were waiting for an explanation. This was supposed to be an important business meeting, with figures, financial reports, and multi-million-dollar investment decisions. There was no room for a janitor. Elena sat down at the head of the conference table. She tilted her head slightly, as if savoring the uncomfortable atmosphere in the room. Then, after a moment that felt like an eternity, she spoke. "I know what you are all thinking." Her voice was calm. "And I don't care." But the truth was that no one in the room could anticipate what was coming next. An unexpected encounter. A few weeks ago, Elena happened to walk past the staff lounge on the 6th floor, a floor she rarely visited. She was on her way to a meeting when she accidentally overheard a strange discussion. That stock might yield short-term profits, but just look at the market trends. The real value lies in undervalued investments. She paused. At first, she thought one of her financial advisors had gotten lost, but the voice was unfamiliar. It was calm, profound, carrying an understanding that came from real-world experience rather than just theoretical knowledge. Curious, she moved closer. Through the crack in the door, she saw Daniel, a janitor, sitting at the lunch table explaining complex financial concepts to another colleague in simple, easy-to-understand language. She stood there, listening for 15 minutes. He talked about market cycles, about how certain businesses have growth potential, and about the risks that most people overlook. What he shared was much deeper and more practical than anything she had ever heard in board meetings. At that moment, she made a decision. "I want you to join me for a meeting next week." Daniel was taken aback. "A meeting with whom?" "With my directors." His eyes widened. I don't think that." "You don't need to think," she interrupted. "Just be there." And that's why he is standing here today, in front of a room full of people waiting for him to fail. But what happened next was something no one could have anticipated. One of the directors, Martin Caldwell, leaned back in his chair, adjusted his tie, and spoke with a somewhat sarcastic tone. "Mrs. Harrington, you must have a reason for this." Elena smiled, not the warm kind of smile, but the kind that suggested she was several steps ahead of her opponent. "I do," she said. "Daniel is here because I want him to participate in today's discussion." The entire room seemed to stir. Lawrence Whitman, the chief financial officer, frowned. "But this is an important financial meeting. I don't see him having any relevant experience." Elena maintained her smile. "That's funny, because last week, when I heard Daniel explain the long-term investment strategy, it made more sense than what I usually hear in our meetings." The room became so quiet that you could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. Daniel looked around, feeling the gaze of everyone focused on him. He took a deep breath, recalling the long nights spent at the dining table, reading financial reports with his father, learning how to analyze the market. He was no longer afraid. Daniel sat up straight, looking at Martin, his voice full of confidence. "You're worried about underperforming assets, right?" Martin raised an eyebrow. "That's right." Daniel nodded. "I've read the reports. The issue isn't the assets, it's how you evaluate them." The room fell into complete silence.